Okay.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered together here this evening to join this man and this woman. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were the next wedding party. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for visiting my favorite place in the world, the city of Gretna. My name is Leicester Lewis Trout, and I was born on October the 26th, 1913, inside of my parents' house right here in Gretna. I used to take the Gretna ferry to go to New Orleans to attend Jesuit High School. Graduated in 1932. I then went to Tulane University and graduated in 1936 with a degree in chemical engineering. Then took a job as a chemist at the Johns Mansfield plant in Marrero. My wife, Ethel LeBlanc, and I were married in 1937, and we moved into our home at 932 Newton Street, which is just catty-corner to this very cemetery. She was an educator, and she finished her career at Gretna High School, which is right over here at the end of Huey P. Long Avenue, or it was there. We had two children, two boys, George and Christopher. I used to make the boys go out and water the street down to keep down the dust. See, the streets weren't paved back then, and the house windows were open. Well, both of our boys now live in Texas, but my great niece, Stephanie Dietrich, lives here. She was the one that greeted you in the Red Maple at the beginning of your tour. Hey, any baseball fans out there?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I was actually a player for the Matthew Pets. It was a semi-professional baseball team headquartered here in Gretna, Louisiana. I loved baseball. We used to have a huge radio in the house. You know, one of those floor models? It looked like a piece of furniture. I would sit in front of that radio every Saturday and listen to the broadcasts of the baseball games. So much to tell you in so little time. Did you know that I was the first king of the crew of Grella? You had fun with that. Oh, and I loved raw oysters. I'd eat them for breakfast sometimes. Put them in a glass, add some ketchup and salt, and drink them down. Oh, good stuff. Don't you think? I agree. Oh, and gardening. I always had flowers blooming in the front yard and the backyard. Birds of paradise were my favorite. And orchids. Grew those in my hothouse. My father, Louis J. Trout, was the first Justice of the Peace of Gretna, and he died in 1943 in the middle of his term. Sam H. Jones, the governor of Louisiana at that time, appointed me to finish his term. Well, I had received my legal education at LaSalle University in Chicago. Would you believe that I wound up holding that office from 1943 to 1983? The math for you real quick. That's 40 years. I used to perform the wedding ceremonies in my house here on Newton Street. During that time, I performed over 17,000 weddings. Guess that's why they called me the marrying judge. I've always tried to be a gracious, patient, and kind man. If there was anything I could do for someone, it was always my pleasure to do so. In fact, we had a housekeeper and a cook, Miss Anita. Miss Anita worked for me for over 35 years, and she was considered a member of the family. When her health and mobility made it impossible for her to work any longer, she retired. Well, from the time that she retired until her death, many years later, I continued to give her a weekly salary. I even paid for her funeral expenses. My wife Ethel and I lived in our house on Newton Street for all the 63 years that we were together. When Christopher had children, Ethel really wanted to move to Texas to be near the grandchildren. And I said to her, sweetheart, the only place we're ever going to move to is across the street to the cemetery. And that's exactly what happened. My Ethel died in the year 2000 after a long battle with Parkinson's. She spent 10 years in the Weinhoven nursing home. For the last 5 years of her life, she rarely spoke, and she really didn't even know who I was. But that didn't stop me. No. I would go to visit her every day and sit with her. Sometimes I'd hold her hand. I just didn't want her to be alone. Well, I lived for 3 years after she passed, and every day during that time, I would go to church and pray for Ethel. Oh, now, don't say I told you so, but a little later in this tour, you're going to meet a pretty lady with a shotgun. She was my father's first wife. Just wanted to let you know that you don't want to get on her bad side, because she's been known to use that shotgun. Thank you for stopping by. I haven't had this many visitors in a long time.
My sister Seth Trout is played by Irvin Schwartz, who is a good friend of mine and happens to be my husband.
But I didn't marry us.